be very personable, network. The job that you're looking for is not on LinkedIn, is in the people that you meet. And building a good connection with them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What I Do for Work, the podcast for ambitious people who want to build the careers of their dreams. I'm your host, Anita Patrick, and throughout this series, I'll be interviewing hardworking people in diverse career paths about the work they do, and what it entails, the kind of efforts, sacrifices, mentality, and everything in between it took to get them to where they are now. Today, I have Adanna Atuonwu,
Yes.
great PR at top commodities exchange platform in Nigeria. Although her work translates Nigeria to Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and more. We talked about what it's like to work in PR. We talked about the importance of structure and working implicit with structure, about being a good manager and having good manager, how to handle issues with your reportees when they are not delivering as expected. We talked about relationship building and networking and how to go about it the right way. And then I specifically mentioned how to network correctly. We talked about so many other things, but I'll just let you get into it. Adanna, come and tell us what you
Thank
do for
you.
work.
Thank you. My name is Adanna, and you pronounce my name very well, actually. My name is Adanna Atuonwu. I work as public relations lead at AFEX, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Cote d'Ivoire. And then sometimes on the side, I do manage influencers. It's just something I do on the side sometimes because I have a lot of friends who are influencers and content creators. So I do manage them with negotiations and building their brand online, especially. Yeah. I mean, they said I should start mentioning it. So I thought to bring that up, to mention that.
That I'm a fan of, talking about your work, wherever you find yourself. So, okay, right now you mentioned, being a PR lead. And in your bio, you mentioned, being a marketing and PR expert. And, that's, we always talk about how marketing and PR are not exactly the same thing, even though they are always conflicted. Yeah, they are
Yeah.
more like sisters, you can't have one without the other. Well, I mentioned, being PR. Okay, so where did marketing come from?
So, I mean, for context, I studied mass communication and then I did my master's in media and communications, where I then specialized in marketing communications. So, most of the time, they won't teach you they would teach you the entire scope of marketing communications, which consists of marketing, pre-communications, public relations, experiential marketing, and just so that you're very well rounded when you go into the marketing and communication space, just so that wherever you find yourself, you're not drowning, you're able to swim. But I think that the more that you advance in your career, you then decide, okay, this is the part that I'm going to like stick to, and then stick there as much as you can. But again, like you said, the comp space is very interesting. They can mistake marketing for PR and then mistake that, well, because you know PR, you know marketing. So you just need to know all of them and then, enjoy your strong suit, I guess.
Yeah, okay, so it's more of a to stay competitive.
Yeah, it's very important in the space. Very
Okay, so
key.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, tell me more about what your work is like day to day. I'm doing PR.
I mean, if you ask anyone in PR, I'm not sure they have a typical day to day, but let me try. So my job involves a lot of quenching fire. That's what I like to say. It involves quenching fire per second per day. Something can come up and take your whole day and just flip it. But let me try. A typical day in my life is getting to work. I try to get to work as early as I can because I'm not exactly an early morning person. Again, I get to work, and first things first is check emails. If there are any email that was sent from the day before, are there, things that I need to knock out from the email or respond to? And then, you want to also check alerts. If you use like a monitoring tool for your organization, I do usually check to see if we're still on the good side. Is somebody trying to drag us? Have there been any news mentions anywhere? And if there are, you want to like read it. Are there like things happening within the sector that you want to catch up on? But I think that for me specifically, because I'm not exactly a morning person, I like to do like things that will require less brain work in the mornings from like 9 to 12 per se. So checking with my team, checking on work, if there are things I need to review that are not, writing and stuff like that. I use my mornings to like do admins in quotes. And this is a typical day if there's no fire burning. If I have meetings, I love to take meetings in the mornings because, for me, it requires brain work, but it doesn't require, that level of brain work. So I like to use my middays if there are serious articles to write, releases to be written. I try to knock that off during the day. Meeting with our journalists, all of that good stuff. I like to hit it during the day. And then when work is, winding down, I check again. If there are like media mentions, checking with my team again. If there are last minute things to review, depending on what's going on in the day. If there's an event we're prepping for, where are we on that? Are there things lagging? And so, yeah, I check in with my team lead. Are there like last minute things that we need to do before the day closes? No, yes. And we just try to wrap up the day. So I think that's like a typical work day in my life when there's no
Yeah.
crisis,
Thank
when there's
you.
no chaos.
Okay, thank you for giving us that summary. I mean, here's someone say, oh, they're not a morning person. It's like I'm in enemy territory because I'm a
Yeah.
morning person. Like sometimes I start work at like 4 or 5 a.m. Some days when I wake up at 8 o'clock, when I'm working from home, I feel like, oh, I've lost a big chunk of my day. Like, I feel like I need to get this started very early. I like it when it's really quiet in the morning and everything. I get my best work done in the morning. That's also why I hate meetings because then you're taking into my productive time and we're talking about things when I could be productive. Anyway, Louis.
Wish I can be a morning wish I can be a morning person, but I'm just not. I've tried. When I wake up that early, I want to like where am I rushing to? Like why do I have to jump into serious work that early? But I find that I'm a midday and then if I have something that like urgent I want to do, there's this thing that happens to me between like 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. I don't know what that is, but my mind goes too active and I want to like get things done. I'm trying to figure out what that is, but those are like my productive time.
People are different. Everyone is different, really, and it's actually so important to know how you function, how you are productive, so you can work around that. I know that doing PR is all about relationships. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so what that is like.
it's funny because I was having this conversation yesterday with a couple of PR people who don't work in Nigeria, and I thought that this was a Nigerian problem. And we just realized it's a general PR problem. For you to build relationship with media people or journalists or media houses, first of all, you have to be very personable. So I'm going to speak specifically to Nigeria, the West African media and the East African media. So I find that you have to, for lack of a better word, I don't know if to use the word patronizing, but you have to show that you can't do without them. Right. So for example, and which you really can't, but you really, really have to like grovel. So for the West Africa, East Africa media space, you want to bring them together. Think about it like you're dating somebody. You are taking them on a date. Literally, you invite them for an event or for a press conference. You're checking in on them. Oh, don't forget the time for the conference is 1 p.m. Please come. That's after you've invited them, even though most of them don't read their emails. You do that anyway. You send WhatsApps to remind them. And then when they come, again, just like dating, you are packaging souvenirs for them. In the media space, we call it brown envelope. You put money for them. Thank you for coming to us. And if other media houses are giving, for example, 50K, first time you want to give them like 70, and they're like, and you're always reaching out to them. Please, we have this event because to be fair, they're also looking for stories to cover. So this time around, you're going to them and saying, "Oh, please come and cover this story." You do it a lot of times, to be fair, and then they know you by name. When I'm calling them the next time, they're like, "Oh, hi, my name is Adanna. I'm calling you from AFEX." Um, right, and you do that a lot of times, and then when they now know you, they start to reach out. So I always say that PR is 70% being proactive and 30% being reactive. And the reason why I say that is because you have to cut them, date and cut them. You're going to them with, oh, my company is doing this. Here is a press release. Publish for us, please. You give them a brown envelope. You do that 7 times, for example. And then the third time, when something happens within your sector, they're thinking about you, right? And they will call you, Ada, and this news broke. Does anybody from AFEX want to say something about it? If, for example, there's a crisis in your organization, they'll reach out to you first and say, oh, this crisis broke out. Do you guys want to say anything, or should I just go ahead and publish without you guys? So I just think that it's a lot of 70% proactive dating, cutting them, and then the 30% is for goodwill. So that, the times that you want to do like a sharp press release distribution, they can do it for you free of charge sometimes, but at least you know them. And the more that you know them, you can always transfer this relationship from one organization to the other when you move. The only problem is if you move, because these journalists cover specific desks and specific sectors. If, for example, you now move from the agricultural space to health space, so you probably have to do that again when you get there. But this time around, it will be easier because you can just call the agriculture desk and say, please, who covers your health desk? And you start that cutting process again. I think that's, for me, that's what I would say is media relationship building.
I understand that. You mentioned doing the master, but I know that you studied mass comm for
First
your
degree.
undergrad. Yeah.
Yeah.
To tell me why did you do a masters? Do not see a lot of people like going to do a masters in comm. Especially if you already studied something related for undergrad.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be someone who studied something different trying to enter the sector. So
Yeah.
tell me about that.
I've always known that I was going to do comms. Also, for context, I my mom is a journalist, still a journalist actually, and so I grew up around media and comms people a lot. And I think that that time it wasn't called media and comms; it was called journalism. So I grew up around journalists a lot, and so I did my first degree in UNN, University of Nigeria and Soka. And this is not a shade at all, but I did not feel like I learned a lot. I just felt like I graduated, but I didn't feel like I got a lot of knowledge.
Like, was it not practical enough or
It
something?
wasn't practical enough. It was very old. I remember this case of anybody in my class probably sees this interview would know exactly what I'm saying when I say that we had a course on photojournalism, and this was 2014, 15. So this is like 10 years ago. And this man made us go and get like a analog camera. Those ones that need film, that you put film, dark room, wait for it to, yeah. So we did that for photojournalism. Even my mom was like, this is what she did when she studied from how many years ago. So why is that what we are doing in 2014 or 15? And it just did not make any sense. And I think I almost failed that course because I was trying to be stubborn about it. But I mean, there's only so much stubbornness you can do in a federal university. So I did what needed to be done to graduate. But when I was done and then I was applying for jobs after during my NYSC, I had a friend who was like, he also was in the communication space. But he said to me, I think you need another degree. I think you need something that kind of supplement your knowledge. And at that time, it was, oh, you finish school, you go and do a master's. I started looking for schools that wasn't doing masters in mass communication, but was doing masters in like a broader form of communications that would allow me to explore different aspects of communications that I did not do in UNN. Like if I was going to get a master's, it would be worth my time and worth my parents' money. I went down Pan Atlantic University. My friend had just graduated from there. Did a lot of research of their curriculum. I mean, I found schools outside the country, but I knew I wasn't going anywhere. So I had to find somewhere here. But what I did was to find a curriculum abroad that I liked and then found a university in Nigeria that could mirror that same curriculum. And so that's when I found Pan Atlantic and I went there. And let me tell you, it was a game changer for me. I loved going to Pan Atlantic University. I loved the way that it broadened my mind about communications. I loved that I did it. I also love that I met amazing people who are still my friends, that I still go to vent about work and get it. So yeah, that was why I did my master's. And I'm so grateful because that was how I got this FX job. My class was filled with people who were very supportive. So they could reach out to me and say, "Oh, we're looking for somebody here," and somebody will always recommend, "Oh, I know somebody." And yeah, that's how I got my job.
I like that when you were thinking about your master's, it's not about something broad. When people do a master's, they go narrower. It's because you're trying to supplement the information you felt you lost out
Yeah.
on. Still went broad because, well, you don't have 4 years again. I think, how long was it? 1 year or 2 years?
Yeah, it was actually 9 months.
Okay, so you had to as much knowledge as you
Yeah.
could. Let's talk about being an alumni of Pan Atlantic and getting referrals. How does that work? Because sometimes people do not participate in these things. When I was younger, I did not.
Yeah.
Well, I have grown here. I have understood the importance of networking, of making use of every available resource that
Resources.
help you in your career. So if you attend the school and they have a group that is supporting their graduates, you need to
Yeah.
participate in that. Tell me more about that.
Again, I was having this conversation yesterday at my office. Somebody asked, "How do you make sure that you're getting ROI, return on investment, on your masters?" And my thing is, if you're going to do a masters, you might as well do it well, right? And of course, I do understand that undergraduates, some of us are just there to just graduate. If we're being very honest, we're just happy to get as much as we can and graduate, right? Especially if you schooled in Nigeria and you schooled in federal universities, you just want to do your best and graduate. So I think that you can get away with it if you are in federal university. However, if you're in a school as structured as Pan Atlantic, the alumni network is very strong. And why I say that is that even at AFEX, like most of us were either alumni of PAU or Lagos Business School. And it's that most people who graduate from LBS, for example, own companies and they're looking for people, employees. They just reach out to their alumni and say, "Oh, I need someone with this and this." They go through the alumni network and try to find people who just finished a program or about to round up a program. And they start to, give a list. They kind of make a list, send, and then the HR kind of picks it up from there. Again, if you're going to do a master's, might as well do it very well. You might as well maximize your money. You might as well make use of all the resources because masters ain't cheap anywhere. So you might as well maximize all the money that you have paid. If there's a library there, if there are co-curricular activities, do it. Because I always say that masters is 70% networking and 30% school. So if you're going to do the 70%, do it very well. If you're going to do the 30%, do it very, very well.
I think I picked from that attending a good school. Going from your master's to a fact, that must have felt very fulfilling. What was that like? How did that feel?
To be fair, that was my first big girl. No, actually, that wasn't my first big girl job. So let me go back a little. So for you to graduate Pan Atlantic, you must do an internship for minimum of 3 months. So I was at an agency doing the internship, finished, graduated, and I was still at the agency when I got the job at AFEX. And coming into AFEX was now really like, okay, so all the things that you now have to like put it into practical here. And I think that my first task, which was a big one, was to see the trading platform, take you from development to life. Everything was new for me. Every single thing was new for me. But I think that what changed my perspective is I have an underlying motivation that they will not say that Adana did something and it was terrible or subpar. So I tried as much as possible to apply myself. And I think that for me, just even my first year at AFEX and all the big things they were giving me to do, I was just like, sorry, I'm just new here. Stop giving me big things to do. I'm only new here, but I think that the more that I kept applying myself, the more my capacity to be able to handle more came. And I think it's like a muscle that you exercise. So I think for me, it was just committed to apply myself. The good days, obviously, the very bad days where I cried. So, I mean, if you've not cried at
All
a
been
corporate
there.
job, have you really started at a corporate job? No, you
Everyone.
haven't. You haven't. So, and luckily, I was working with people who were ready to answer all my questions and were committed to making sure that good work was done. So that made it somewhat easier. Yeah,
Take that because it gives you room to grow. You've got support all around you. I know you feel this pressure. I need to be really great off the
you.
bat, but you've got
Yeah,
support around you. You need to reach out to people and say, okay, I need help. And it does not take away from you, it does not take away from your work. It should not make you feel
yeah,
like, oh my God, oh, I regret hiring you because I just came to
yeah.
ask for help. But no,
Do
I
you
don't think
understand?
so. Because being
Yeah,
able having people like that around you, you really need to take advantage of that.
yeah,
Could come to, oh, I'm not sure what to do in this, and I just need a little guidance. I would appreciate that over them just being there, being scared and being worried. I mean, of course, I want you to take initiative. I want
yeah,
you to have your own ideas and everything. But if you're
yeah,
struggling, please go through it. Let's work it out together. The growth is all there after, and so it's good that you had that kind of support because on the flip side is that sometimes people work in places where they do not have that support that they can count
yeah.
on. And so like they are just
In the end, just to add on to what you have said, what I've found to help a lot is to have good managers. And if you are in a place to be a manager, be a good manager. When I was at the agency, I had a good manager, scary but good. When I came at AFEX, I had very open managers. I could go to, for example, Drew and say, oh, I'm facing this. Can you help? And nobody is hoarding their knowledge. There are some places that you work at, it seems like nobody wants to help you for fear of you passing them. At AFX, nobody gives a heck. The most important thing is we need to get the job done and we will get the job done. So I think that is very important. And I know that it's not everyone that is fortunate to have a good manager. But if you do have a good manager that you find that is very open, I think that you need to take as much as you can from that relationship. Very respectful, but take as much as you can from that relationship. Even as a manager, I try to identify their strengths, their weaknesses. There are days that you get on the strength and make them do something they can do well, and then there are some times that when things are slower, I try to help them sharpen the weaknesses, like giving them what they would consider big task and allowing them go to figure it out, and then allowing them come back to you if they have questions, and if they turn something that is not well done, I do this thing where I give feedback and I give it back to you so that you go and redo it and then you bring it back well done. You're not a baby for starters, but I'm also going to try to hold your hands but put you inside the ocean. But I'm holding your hands so that you don't drown. And so I think that if you are a manager, you have to try to be a good one. For me, what I hold very dearly is I want the people who are working under me to be as good as I am or even better, so that when I want to go on leave, and maybe this is selfish, but so that when I go on leave, my heart is not beating that you are not doing what you're supposed to do. I can relax knowing that you can do work without me micromanaging you, because I truly hate being micromanaged. and I hate micromanaging people. So, as a manager, I want you to be very grounded in the things that we do so that you're able to handle your own. So that if I climb the corporate ladder, you're able to, climb well very easily.
Have you have you encountered someone who needs to be micromanaged? It feels like you have to go in and remind them
Yeah.
to do things. You constantly have to do their work for them. I mean, I'm guilty of that. There are times where, like, I just feel like, what, just give me, I'm just going to get this work done. Because clearly, you don't want to follow instructions. And I have a timeline, so I'm just going to get this work
Yup.
done. I really struggle with that, with managing that, because I also have my
Yeah.
own working, and that's now like eating into my own productivity. So have you encountered something, and how did you deal with it?
I have definitely encountered something like that. And even while you were just talking, I was nodding especially because the com space is very time bound. Everything has a timeline, and if you need to churn out something, you need to churn it out at a specific time. If not, it's no longer relevant. I had a team member who was very forgetful, and when they remember, it's as if the task is due next week. My guy, it's tomorrow that is supposed to be ready. Yeah, just remembering today. Meanwhile, we've been reminding you. And so for me, it was just so frustrating. And I hate doing people's work for them. So if I'm going to do your work for you, you need to know how bad it has gotten for me to do your work for you. And I think that we went through a tumultuous relationship because he didn't understand that that was a problem, and I just did not understand why you didn't understand that that was a problem. So he had other team members that were under him. So I would give out his work sometimes to other people, but I was counting it. So at AFEX, we have appraisals at the end of every quarter, and it helps, for end of year promotions and stuff like that. So when it was time for appraisal, I sat him down and we had a very long, uncomfortable conversation of, you have the technical skills, but you're not applying them. Is anything the problem? Like, is there something going on outside of work that is affecting work? Do you understand? Because sometimes you have to also be empathetic. Some people's lives outside of work can be affecting work, right? And obviously, because it's a work environment, they wouldn't want to come and share, right? So we had that conversation. It wasn't anything outside of work. So it was just him being lackadaisical. And by the time he reflected on his appraisal scores, and I'm like, this has to, because people have done your work for you the entire quarter. So what that means is that you have to sit up. And I think that after that, he didn't like me that much, but who cares? It's a work environment. And I remember probably a year after, he sent me a long message going, I mean, if he watches this, he's going to probably know he's the one. And he sent me a message saying, oh, that was very helpful, and that he thought I was being mean to him, but that over time now, because at the end of the day, he became team lead, funny enough. But he was like, he needed to figure that out. And by the time he figured it out, he was probably everyone's favorite person in communications department, because he was really great at his job. But it took him a while to sit up. And by the time he sat up, I mean, he's doing incredible right now. So I guess that worked. But I think that as a manager, for people like that, I know that it's very hard, but sometimes you don't have to come at you are doing very poorly at your job. Things could be happening outside of work that is affecting work. So you want to come from there first. And if things are fine and you're just being horrible at your job, you should be able to correct people without being demeaning or putting them down, and also hold their hands. But again, I know that it's very hard. And if someone is consistently that way, then maybe HR should then step in at that point.
Thank you. I've taken notes. I've taken points. I do not like when someone pushes me to the point where I have to say no, this is not good. Because
And
sometimes I expect,
it's a very uncomfortable conversation.
like, how you mentioned he didn't know that what he was doing was not right. Sometimes some things feel like a no-brainer to you and not to other people. So I have had to learn to take everyone as they are. or like to not like have to not impose my own what's it to not impose my own exposure on them,
Yeah,
so that it does not breed so much resentment. First is 10 years old. Is
more
that
than
correct? And you've been there for about 6 years.
5, 5, 6 years.
Definitely. I noticed that there's been growth,
Yeah.
over this year. All of this institutional structure. What is it like working in a place with structure? How has that helped you become a better professional?
I always say that there couldn't have been a better place for me to have started my proper big girl job than AFEX. For me, it's even watching them want to grow and actually growing. And I'm not even talking in terms of what you're seeing, like AFEX expanding into different countries. I even mean like internally and putting structures in place for staff to be able to thrive. For me, I think that that's very important. We had a thing, an ongoing joke that you can't work in AFEX and not put on weight because we had things like if there are 5 people having birthdays in one day, there are 5 cakes coming, right? Deji could just wake up and say, guys, buying suya for the whole office. And we're not a small office, right? But because HR and senior management knew that the work was much, so they would make sure that as a staff, you are comfortable to the best of their capacity, at least as an organization. So there was the appraisal structure, which I loved so much. At the beginning of every quarter, you set your OKRs. We call it organization key results. You set it every quarter. This is what I'm going to try, I'm going to achieve. And then you get that approved by your team lead. And the maximum was 4, right? So that you're not overwhelmed. And so we had that. And then after we did like a 360 appraisal where you appraise yourself based on the key result that you set. So you appraise yourself and then your team lead appraises you based on the score that you've appraised yourself with. And you put it down in the system. At the end of the year, everyone is looking, okay, was I on a consistent first quarter, second quarter, third quarter? That immediately means, I think that meant a double promotion if you were due for either. But we had that structure in place. So you could monitor your progress as a staff and you knew when, okay, you're going to climb up the ladder or not. And there was conversation for every reason why you didn't climb up, you didn't get a promotion or something like that. So for me, working in that place that had that kind of structure just helped me want to do better and want to thrive. We would have like hall meeting. And then we would have like retreats. Leave was compulsory. You must take your leave. It was just great. You could tell that the staff was important to the organization. And for me, that was the most important part. Like they are doing their best to make sure that you're thriving, you're climbing up the corporate ladder. If you are not climbing, they're going to ask questions. HR was very on it. Yeah. And I think for me, it helped because I love structure. I love working. And maybe it's as a result of working in AFEX, but it helps my mind. I know what I'm working towards. I know what needs to be done. But again, there are obviously times because the organization is very fast paced, things would come up last minute, things will happen. But the perks of working in Nigeria, I guess, or just in financial space. And for me, at the core is that the organization cares about me, even though the work is much, but the organization cares about me. And so if it comes down to it, if you need a break, you take a break. I think I took a sabbatical in 2023 because I was very burnt out. The organization was very accommodating enough for me to do that without even quitting. I mean, it's been very helpful.
Looking at my own career, if there's one thing that I could do differently, I would work at a place with structure, at least for my first job, because I feel that it sets the tone for the rest of your career.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you work at a place now where you get quarterly appraisals, you have all the structures put in place. So now, if you move to another company, but they don't have the set of structures in place, you know that something is wrong. But if you start at a place where there are no appraisals, where there are no promotions, where there are no structures for growth and for employees to thrive, you might not even realize that these are things that you need. And so you might go from job to job, just taking whatever is given to you because you do not know what you need to be able to grow. So
Yeah.
that's really good. If someone asks me what to do or where to work after university, I'll definitely tell them to look for work at a place where people know what they're doing, a place with structure, because it's going to set the tone for the rest of your career. When you look at your industry, whether as a PR professional or as someone working in the agri-tech sector, there are problems that you think need more startups, that need more innovation, because I'm thinking that we cannot always do everything, and no matter where we work at, we always spot problems that we think, man, I don't really have the time to do this, but I wish there were more people in this particular in this value chain or whatever, that were solving this problem. And so, are there any of such problems that you encounter in your sector that need more innovation or problem solving?
So are you asking specific to being a comms person in the agricultural space or the agricultural space in general?
You could speak to anyone really.
The problem that immediately comes to mind is that because of the way that the agricultural sector is, a lot of people don't consider communications important until they want to communicate. But for us to be able to communicate impact, you have to bring us into the room from the beginning and carry us along, not at the end, right? And I find that this is very popular even across all sectors. And I think that it's not fair because if you bring us in at the end, then we don't understand what has gone on from the beginning. You've not carried us along. So if I want to communicate that, oh, you've done this great work, I don't understand what you have done enough to be able to communicate it to other people. And that's one thing that we've kind of started to implement so that the comms person, even if it's not the whole comms team, is in the meetings. So I think that is one problem that I see that needs to be solved. I think another thing would be consider communications and investments, not a money spending initiative. I mean, most people always think that, especially within the agri space, that because we don't bring in money, there's no ROI to the work that we do. And I think that mindsets are being changed because if we don't communicate that you're even in the sector, then people would not know you. You want to be able to enter into a space, a room filled with people within the industry, and you mention you work for so organization, and it comes to mind immediately and be like, oh, I've seen your Instagram, or I saw an article you guys wrote. Your organization comes top of mind, but I do understand that as founders or CEOs, it's not something that comes top of mind for them, and so most times they struggle to budget for comms and just see us as, okay, what can you do with 10,000 naira? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I understand that. And honestly, that thing is everywhere, to be frank. You can't tell me after you've created the stuff, okay, yeah, I need you to push this stuff. What am I pushing? I don't know what I'm pushing. You've not told me anything. I need to be in that room because sometimes it's not so much about the finished product. It's about the process, the ideas, the stories, everything that led to this point. So yeah, believe me, it is everywhere. So for someone trying to get into comms and PR, what would your advice to them be, or what would you advise them to do or not to do?
Yes. If you're like me, who have always been in the communication space, be audacious about stepping into roles, take certifications if you need to boost your knowledge about the sector. Two, do not be afraid to do hard stuff, hard campaigns. Think outside the box as much as you can. Communication strategies are pretty much almost the same. It's the application that always differ. Like the way that you would apply it in this sector might be different in the way that you apply it in the other sector. So I would say don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to embrace big challenges, because that's one of the ways that you're going to grow. Be very personable, network. The jobs that you're looking for is not on LinkedIn, is in the people that you meet. And building a good connection with them. Go for events that you know that you would meet people, network. Because honestly, I can't lie, knowing people that work in my space has saved me a lot of time, and having friends who work in the industry as well has saved me a lot of times. Even times that I am confused on what to do, I can easily get on a call with somebody and they help me with something. They may help me with a strategy or an idea or flesh it out and stuff like that. So I would say network horizontally, network among your peers.
Horizontally, laterally.
I think that people underrate that a lot, and it's something that I preach so much. I carry it on top of my head. Network among your peers, because those big people you're seeing, they also have their peers that are their friends, right? It's good to have a mentor, but it's also very important to network among your peers, because the hiring of today can be a CMO tomorrow, and she's my friend, right? But imagine people who are coming up behind me and seeing the relationship that I have with Irene. They don't know that we're coming from the bottom, we're going up. Sometimes people just think, let me look at that CMO up. It's okay. But how much access do you have to that CMO aside from you can see them doing maybe podcasts and interviews? And if you're lucky, you get to work with them. But your friends who are in the same industry with you are more accessible. And I'm not even saying make friends with them, actually be friends with them. So I think that that's the one, not the one thing, but the many things I would say.
Where do you find relationships? I know that question sounds odd. For me, my network pretty much comes from people I went to school with. And people I work with, my colleagues. I would just say find your own relationship.
And people I went to school with, first degree, my master's, colleagues. Then you meet other people through your colleagues' friends. Maybe you go out somewhere, you meet other people there. I remember there was a time I went to an event at Nairobi. I I was the only person they sent from my office because my colleague didn't get her visa on time. I get there and I just cited one of my friend's friend, and I went and introduced myself. He was like, oh, okay. And then I started working with him. I started introducing me to other people who introduced me to other people. So I think that also helps. Like your friend's friend, church. I don't know if you go to church. You only meet people when you leave your house. There's only so much Instagram DMs can do. If you see someone that can be your friend, shoot a friendship shot at them. It can work. I've shot a friendship shot at somebody and she's still my friend today. So I think that also helps.
So I never leave my house. So yeah, shots fired and everything. But I'm trying my best. Trying my best. I think we've come to the end of this interview. I feel like we've had like a very, very good conversation today.
Yeah,
Particularly things that you mentioned on relationship building. We've talked about being a good manager and the importance of
yeah,
being a good and having a good manager and structure. I've liked how you actually grown and how you take your work seriously and how you seem very, very passionate about PR and PR. So I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. Really, I've been a long fan of your work. Really, I've been seeing the stuff you guys have been doing. Because we have mutual friends. So I'm really glad that
thank
you
you.
come and discuss that.
See, now you're my friend.
Of course we are. Of course we are. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on this show. And people can find you on LinkedIn, right? Yes,
Yes, you can find
LinkedIn
me on
and
LinkedIn
Instagram.
and
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to link it in the show notes so people can just click the link to go directly to your
Instagram. That's
profile.
fine.
So, if you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word. Tell us what you like about it on social media and tag us at What I Do for Work. Or use the hashtag WIW WIDFW podcast. Share it with your friends, mentees, share with people, share this one in particular with people who work in PR and print. And so you can give us a review under your favorite podcast and subscribe on YouTube. If you'd like to be a guest or if you have suggestions for this podcast, fill the form link in the show notes. So thank you all for listening. We will be back in 2 weeks with another inspiring conversation. So until then, keep learning, keep growing, keep building. Bye.